Hi, I'm Steve Gimbert with the G-Man Radio Network. I recently had some friends come by the studio and we had a wonderful conversation about an organization called Hope in the Round. I'll start this off, I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Roy.
Charlie, nice to meet you. Well, I'm Charles Barnes. I'm one of the founders of Hope in the Round. And
I'm Roy Hale, one of the singer-songwriters and part of the Hope in the Round series.
yeah. Well, Hope in the Round came about, I own a publishing company called Storyteller Publishing. And one of the guys who's also part of Hope in the Round, Milton Lee, we call him Red.
Red Lee.
He was coming over to talk about me doing some albums for him and talking about being a publishing company. And he was telling me his story, how, you know, he'd been delivered from alcohol and struggled with alcohol and this and that and the other. And that's about the last thing I remember. My mind got to wonder, and I thought, you know, it'd be really cool to have a songwriters round. Now, a lot of people don't know what a songwriters round is, but if you go to Nashville, you'll have guys that sit in a kind of a circle, like at the Bluebird Cafe, and they sit around and they tell the story of how this song came about, and then they sing the song. And I thought, you know, it'd be really cool if you had guys that could give their testimony of how they struggled with addictions, and maybe a song that relates to that. And each writer take a round, and it starts out, this is where I was, this is how I got out, and this is where I am now. And I kept thinking about that over and over. And so first person I called, I didn't tell anything to Milton about it, but I called Roy. I said, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? He said, man, I like it. I said, okay, what do we call it? And I was like, I don't know. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up out of a dead sleep and I heard Hope in the Round. So I called Roy and I said, hey, what do you think about
It wasn't 3 o'clock when he called.
You know, I didn't call him at 3. I know he wouldn't pick up anyway. But I said, hey, man, what do you think about Hope in the Round? He said, I like it. So, and the object is, you know, you can get a bunch of different writers that struggle with different things. So you don't have the same guys necessarily all the time, but you can switch out, or you can have teams that go out, or whatever the case may be. And eventually what we want to do is have albums that target certain maybe addictions, maybe alcohol, maybe one on drugs, and then maybe distribute those albums out where some of the proceeds help go back to make other albums, but they also go to organizations that help those issues. And that's how Hope in the Round started.
Yeah. Well, you know, me and Charlie, we go pretty good ways back. We met, of course, through music, and him being a writer and me being a writer, we collaborated on a few different songs probably 10 years ago or so, and kind of stayed in contact. And when this Hope in the Round came up, he thought of me because he knew I had went through my own personal struggles and had overcome those, and he thought, you know, I'll reach out to Roy and see what his thoughts are on it. And so that's kind of how I became part of it. You know, we try to start out with saying this is where we were at, and it's vulnerable. Make yourself vulnerable.
It's raw.
So we tell this is where we were at, without naming names, you know. But where we were at, what helped us turn the corner, what turned the light on, so to speak, and at the center of all that is Jesus Christ. You know, He makes the difference in that turn. Then you make the turn, then the third song is usually kind of where we're at now and what we're doing now. Charlie always says, he says, before we get started, he said, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, and you're gonna think. And he leaves it at that.
And every time it happens.
At the end of the deal, he said, did you laugh? And everybody says yes. He said, did you cry? They said yes. He said, did you think? Everybody says yes.
During the interview, I asked the question, do you think music is a better vehicle when you're trying to reach people?
Most definitely.
Yes.
I work with an organization called Freedom Sings, and Paul Tull is the director of it, and it's funny, you'll have a veteran and what they do is they listen to the story of a veteran and turn it into a song. And what's funny is you these guys will never talk about their struggles in the battle, even with their wives. But you get a guitar in front of them and they just start pouring out, and you turn that into a song. It's the same thing here. Music has a way of help telling the story. I think it's the frequency of the notes that, because everything's a frequency. I mean, that's scientifically proven. And it's the frequency of the notes that help, I think, open up the mind and the heart and the soul and the spirit, if you will, that helps let that message sink in a little easier.
And one thing I always try to make it a point of early in the program or presentation is let people know that I'm no different than you are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people, and I used to be this way, you see somebody on a stage and say, man, well, they don't know what I've been through. They don't understand what I'm dealing with. And when you can share some of your struggles with people right up front, not go into great detail, but just, briefly say, this is what I struggle with. And man, it kind of breaks down some walls.
People are coming in there with masks on, okay? So they're putting on the fake mask, and yet you feel like you need to do this song that ain't gonna match the mask they're wearing. But then when it's over with, the mask comes off and they say, okay, that was for me. I needed that. It hurts everywhere, but you gotta deal with it no matter whether you're in church, prison, restaurant, home, whatever. It's like, it is the key to every addiction out there. So yes, people come in with a lot of masks, but once you expose that mask for the song you feel like you need to do, that's the thing about it. That song penetrates through that mask.
Since both these guys are songwriters, I asked them to tell me about one song that they wrote that's very special to them.
Thank you for praying. I usually close out with that one, because my wife, Melanie, she prayed and prayed for me. And crazy times. She'd put her hand on me while I was asleep and pray. And I was oblivious to it. I was probably passed out. I didn't know she was touching me. And when I turned the corner, her prayers were answered. And I always tell people and every time we perform, I say, if you have somebody you're praying for, don't stop praying for them. Because you may not see nothing happening, but stuff's happening. And when their heart's ready to listen, that's when the change happens. Thank you for praying. Thank you for staying. Thank you for being there to catch me every time I'd fall. Thank you for loving. Thank you for believing. Thank you for seeing something in me that I never saw. Thank you for praying. Thank you for praying.
And this came about in a weird way. I woke up one morning and I felt like I was just gonna write. When you're a writer, some mornings you feel like, I'm gonna write a song today. And by 5 o'clock, nothing was happening. And I went to see my brother-in-law, who actually knew George Jones very well, country singer George Jones. He began to tell this story about George Jones, that he was in a coma. And he woke up out of the coma, and the first person he asked for was Vestal Goodman, who he'd never met. And Vestal Goodman and Howard Goodman, which were with the Happy Goodman family, which is a long-time Southern gospel group, they were singing with Bill Gaither at one of the events in Iowa, and they hunted Vestal down. And they said, I know you're fixing to sing, but we will fly you on a private jet to Nashville and have you back in time, but George ain't talking to nobody till he talks to you. So they flew Vestal Goodman to Nashville, and she went to the hospital room, and they got to talking, and she said, she called everybody darling. She said, darling, you know why I'm here? He said, yeah, I need to give my life to Christ. So she prayed with him right there, and George never had another drink, never had another drug. He was a totally changed man with his wife at that time. Totally different guy. And my brother-in-law was at his house one day, and he would get my brother-in-law by the sleeve of the shirt there and say, "Come over here and play the piano for me." And he loved this old hymn, says, "I know a man." It's says, "Some call him Redeemer, Savior, men, I call him Master, but he's my dearest friend." And he'd look at my brother-in-law sitting on the piano bench, and he'd just start crying. He said, "He's my friend, man."
Yeah.
That's it.
That was the song.
I couldn't write quick enough after that. And it said, "I was a drunkard, but no longer crave a drink. I was a user, now the needle has no sting. I was a wonder, but now I finally found a home. I was guilty, now my sins are atoned, 'cause I know the man who rescued me. Now my sins are atoned, 'cause I know the man who rescued me. I know the man whose blood was shed for me. I know the man who caused these blinded eyes to see. I know the man, the God in the man. I know the man who died on Calvary." Well, Hoping Around is a nonprofit organization. You can go to hopeingaround.com, and it'll list everything about about Hoping Around that there is. It'll have information about some of the writers we have right now that do Hoping Around. Brad Knupp is one, Milton Lee, of course Roy and I, and Radius Baker. He's our sound guy. He's a great guy. And but they can go to hopeingaround.com and find out all the information they want about the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Come to Hoping Around.
Come to Hoping Around. We'd love to see you.
All right.
Most events are free.
Yeah.
There's never a covered charge where there hadn't been.
No.
We do take a love offering up if you'd like to give towards the cause, but
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
You can find out more about Hope in the Round at their website. We have a link in the description below. Please subscribe to this channel, like the video, and leave a nice comment. Thank you for watching.